Hey everyone, welcome to another way too early predictions video. We're going to be taking a look at the 2024 Penn State Nittany Lions football schedule, going game by game, looking at every single game, breaking them down, seeing which ones we think they're going to win, which ones we think that they are going to lose. And this is for the 2024 college football season. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. We're breaking down every single team's schedule this year for the upcoming college football season, trying to predict the outcome of every single game and their final win-loss record. When the college football season starts, we also go over every single game. We do the money lines, spreads, and the over-unders, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well, every single week. Like I mentioned, hit that like button and subscribe. We're looking at Penn State right now. Penn State is a perennial 10-2 team every single season. If there was a 12-team playoff starting in 2016, Penn State would have made the playoffs 6 of those years. They've just been outside of playoff contention every single season. So this is their chance right now. The Big Ten is loaded. The Big Ten is a very difficult conference, a very lauded conference. If they go 10-2 this year somehow, they're probably still going to make the college football playoff. So there's a lot of promise for James Franklin's team because they can actually get through that hurdle this year. They still have to play the Buckeyes. They still have a tough schedule, but they actually avoid a lot of the really good teams in the Big Ten this season. So like I mentioned, if there was a year for them to do it, this is the season. There's been a lot of turnover. They're bringing in Kotelnicki as the offensive coordinator from Kansas. Manny Diaz is off to Duke as the head coach, but they're bringing in Tom Allen as the defensive coordinator. Penn State's defense in 2023, the lowest average total yardage given up by any college football team since the 2021 Alabama Crimson Tide. So their defense has been a top 10 defense every single season, a top 5 defense straight for the last 2 years. So they're inheriting a really strong team. They also have some transfers coming in. They have Fleming coming in from Ohio State at the wide receiver position. Penn State has really needed some top offensive talent at the skilled positions. And of course, they still have Singletary and Allen, one of the best 1-2 running back combinations. But let's get things started looking at this 2024 schedule. So they kick things off Saturday, August 31st versus the West Virginia Mountaineers. This game is in West Virginia. Penn State won this game last season, but don't overlook West Virginia. Neil Brown was on the hot seat starting out last season. They won 8 or 9 games last year, had a really surprising season. They're bringing back a lot of those players from last year's squad. This is a really good team. This is a team that could potentially be competing for a Big 12 championship. You don't want to overlook them. They were running the ball really well, playing really good on the offensive side, mainly based around their run game. Penn State, they're going to have to bring it on defense. They had a really good defense last year, a top 5 defense. But as we mentioned, Manny Diaz is gone. Tom Allen, great defensive coordinator, but will everyone be able to adapt to his system? Will the offense get growing? Drew Aller, 5-star quarterback, 25 touchdowns last year, 2 picks, but only averaged 6.7 yards per pass. That's not going to cut it in 2024. Can they go more vertical? Kansas thrived on that last season, and the offensive coordinator is now at Penn State. Look for Penn State's offense to get going and their defense to continue to play well. They're going to win this game. Probably about a 34-17 game, and they're 34-20, and they're 1-0. They follow that up Saturday, September 7th, versus the Bowling Green Falcons. This game is Penn State's first home game. Bowling Green, they're obviously a lower tier team, but they're actually a pretty decent one. So is Penn State at any risk of losing here? I don't foresee that happening. But wherever they lacked in that first game, getting into these new schemes, this is where they can start polishing that. They had a first game versus a Power 4 team. Now they get to polish things that weren't working week 1, try to get them ready for when they get into conference play. Look for them to get everything back on point for the offense to really click here. I have them winning this game 44-13, and they're 2-0. Then Saturday, September 14th, they have a bye week for absolutely no reason. It's way too early to have a bye week, but it's fine. Just like the other games, if there's anything that they still need to be working on in this new scheme, they have the bye week to try to get everything right. Then Saturday, September 21st, they have the Penn State Golden Flashes. This game is also in Penn State. They have a really easy first half of their schedule. So obviously, they're going to blow out Penn State too. I see this game as about a 50-13 game, and they're 3-0. Then Saturday, September 28th, we start Big Ten Conference play, the Illinois Fighting Illini. Now, this is a team, 2 years ago, they had a really competitive team. They had a top 20 defense. completely fell off the rails last year. They had a bad defense. They had a bad offense. They just couldn't get anything going right. I don't see them rebounding here versus Penn State. Penn State's defense is going to be on point coming into the midway point of the season, and I believe that their offense is going to be playing a lot better. They averaged 36 points per game last year. They're going to be a little better this year. They're not going to be a top 10 offense, but they're just shooting for a top 30 offense. Try to get the ball vertical. Try to get first downs. They're going to beat Illinois here. Probably about a 38-17 game, and they're now 4-0. Then Saturday, October 5th, we have the UCLA Bruins. Not the Bruins from last year, but they are now in the Big Ten. Obviously, them, USC, Oregon, and Washington. But Chip Kelly's gone. He's now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. A complete overhaul of this team, roster, coaching-wise. They have a lot of pieces. They're not going to be a good team versus a really difficult Big Ten schedule. Look for Penn State to continue to roll here, to move to 5-0. They're going to win this game. I'm going to go 40-10. It's going to be a beatdown. They're 5-0. Then Saturday, October 12th, a rematch of the 2017 Rose Bowl. We have USC. This game is in the Coliseum. It's in California versus Penn State. USC may very well be ranked. Miller Moss coming in as the starting quarterback had a really good bowl game. He's obviously filling in for Caleb Williams, who's off to the NFL. USC's offense is going to be good. We know they're going to be a top 20, top 15 offense, possibly a top 10 defense. They have, a top 10 offense. They're definitely not going to be a top 10 defense. Their defense is going to be awful. Not as bad as last year. Lincoln Riley finally made changes at the defensive coordinator position. Their defense should be improved. They have playmakers, but they're not going to be a top defense. You're just hoping they go from 115th to 70th, and they just make those baby steps from that point going forward, because we know their offense is going to be clicking. I have this game being a pretty decently close game, but I think it's Penn State's run game. It's Allen. It's Singletary. It's their physical offensive line. That's what's going to make the difference. I have Penn State winning this game closely, 31-28. A very close win, but a win nonetheless, and they're now 6-0. Then they have a bye week. It's probably needed at this point, but their second half of the schedule is just going to be nonstop games. So hopefully, if you had any guys that were hurt, injured, this is the time for them to rest, because you're going down the stretch now. October 26th, it's at the Wisconsin Badgers. This game is in Madison. Some people might scoff at the Badgers. Don't do it. Luke Fickell, really great coach. They have Phil Longo as the offense coordinator. Tyler Van Dyke transferring over at quarterback. They actually had a top 25 defense last year. It was their offense that was slowed down. They were hampered. They did have a lot of injuries. If they get the offense right, this is a really actually decent team. They don't have the playmakers on offense, but with Luke Fickell, with a good defense, with a serviceable offense, this is easily an 8-win team. 8 wins is pretty good from where Wisconsin was previously. Don't overlook them. They can upset you if you get caught looking past them at the Buckeyes next week. I don't have Penn State doing that. I have James Franklin keeping their focus on the here and now. I have Penn State winning this one 30-20, and they're 7-0. And then finally, Saturday, November 2nd, the Ohio State Buckeyes. This game is in Beaver Stadium. It's Penn State's home crowd. We would love for this to be the whiteout game, but it just never is, because of Fox Sports TV contract issues. But Ohio State's obviously going to be a top 10, top 5 team, potentially number 1 at this point of the year. They have, if not the most talented, the second most talented top to bottom roster in all of college football. You have Will Howard transferring in at quarterback. Kyle McCord has transferred to Syracuse. Ohio State's issue last year was their offense. Can they get the quarterback position right with Will Howard there? They're going to have a stacked run game. Also, one of the best 1-2 running back combos, and one of the deepest, if not the deepest, wide receiver room in the country. They have Jeremiah Smith. They have Egbuka. They kick out wide receivers nonstop. Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, takes some pressure off of Ryan Day, concentrate on the game plan. Let Chip Kelly, who's one of the best ever, concentrate on the offense. This game's going to be tough. It's going to push Penn State. They're going to have to compete on defense, and their offense is also going to have to compete. When they couldn't get first downs last year, they need to be able to get first downs this year. I have the Buckeyes coming in as the favorites. I have the Buckeyes winning this one again, but in a close one, a low-scoring one, 24-20. Penn State drops to 7-1. Now they need to rebound. Saturday, November 9th, one of the newcomers to the Big Ten, Washington Huskies, who have a completely different team than the one that went to the national championship last year. Everyone's gone, whether they were seniors or off to the NFL. New coaching staff, new everything. New roster, new coaching staff, but still a decently talented roster. They had a lot of transfers come in. They did have a top 10 transfer portal class. But they need to build this team from the bottom up. Fish is going to have to work on that. You have a new quarterback, new style of offense. They're not going to be able to compete with Penn State's hard-nosed defense. I have Penn State getting things back on track, getting the win here, moving to 8-1 and beating Washington 38-19. And they're 8-1. Then Saturday, November 16th, the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue, just like Illinois, was pretty decent 2 to 3 years ago. They've completely fallen off the rails since then. This game should not be close. Penn State should be able to knock out Purdue, beat them bad. You want to be hot going into the final stretch of the college football season, these final couple games here. I have them beating them pretty big, 42-10, and they're 9-1. Saturday, November 23rd, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. This game is in Minnesota. It's going to be cold. Minnesota usually has a pretty decent defense. They have Fleck as the head coach. Their issues have always been on the offensive side. They've just never been able to get a vertical passing game going. But their defense might be able to keep this game close first half. But I think Penn State is physical. They take control second half. They're going to win this game. I have them winning it 38 to, let's go with 16. And they're 10-1. Can they get to 11-1? It's eluded them for years. They always finish 10-2. Final game Saturday, November 30th. We have the Maryland Terrapins. This game is at Penn State. They're closing out the season at home versus a Maryland team that's lost their quarterback to Availoa. He's gone. He was like a 5th or 6th year senior. Loxley has a lot of guys transferring in, a completely new team, but their offense usually to Availoa was a pretty decent quarterback. He'd get you 350 yards per game. That's now gone. There's going to be a bit of a dip on the offensive side, and they never really have a great defense. Penn State should be able to close this game out, close this season out strong. I have them winning this game pretty handedly, 40-17. Penn State finishing the regular season 11-1. I know I'm going against the odds here. I'm going against Penn State history. The schedule is actually not bad this year. The most difficult game is obviously going to be the Buckeyes, and then you have a couple ones that you need to keep your eye on. The Mountaineers, USC, Wisconsin, I think that's your big ones. USC being the largest potential upset game. But if you beat the Buckeyes, you might go undefeated. If you beat the Buckeyes and lose to someone else, you're definitely going to still finish the season in the top 10. They could, even if they lose to the Buckeyes, be having a rematch with the Buckeyes in the Big Ten Championship. If you go 11-1, 10-2, if you win your conference championship, it doesn't matter. You automatically get into the playoffs with a bye week as a conference champ. Penn State, everything is still in front of them. The road going forward is still clear. The only thing that can take them off of that road is themselves, really. 11-1, even if you don't win your conference, you're probably going to get into the playoffs, definitely coming from the Big Ten Conference. But there's going to be some good teams. You're going to have the Buckeyes, Michigan, Oregon. You have Penn State. So there's going to be a lot of teams kind of clobbered up there in the top 10, top 15. And Penn State doesn't have to play Oregon. They don't have to play Michigan this year. So just get past the Buckeyes and you're pretty much set even if you lose to the Buckeyes. But I have Penn State finishing the regular season 11-1 and potentially competing for a Big Ten championship and a playoff berth. That's my breakdown of our 2024 Penn State Nittany Lions conference schedule. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond. If you agree, disagree, or if you want to say anything else, just drop it below. Thanks.